Can you imagine growing up your whole life in a safe and predictable environment, and then at 11 years old, you get taken away to the supposedly magical but very dangerous and racist world? That's what happened to Hermione. Kids laughed at her for learning and mocked her for being good at magic. Even her best friends commented with pity on how much time she wasted studying. Let me tell you why I don't think Hermione Granger was a nerd even a little bit. We don't know much about Hermione's life before Hogwarts. All we really know is that her parents were muggle dentists. We don't know any of her friends, we don't know what school she went to, we don't even know exactly where she lived. What we do know, however, is the day she got on the Hogwarts Express, she'd already known more spells than any other kid in her year. She fixed Harry's glasses the first time she met him and babbled about some facts she read in the history of Hogwarts. She came prepared. She somehow got hold of textbooks and learned how to do magic completely on her own. Everything not to stand out. For you see, I think this was Hermione's primary motivation, trying to blend in. She knew that other children had wizard parents, and if she had started reading any history books, she quickly realized muggle-born wizards were not treated kindly. In my opinion, she wanted to do everything in her power to avoid cruel treatment, and that didn't work at all. Instead of being appreciated for her knowledge and skill, most of the other kids, including her best friends, mocked her relentlessly. Throughout all of the books, she was called names or ended up as the butt of the joke. Obviously, you could expect it from people like Draco Malfoy, who was raised in pure blood ideology. It's also no surprise that other Slytherin children made fun of her, especially since she was in Gryffindor, the house that was Slytherin's biggest competitor. I wouldn't even be that surprised that kids from Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff would mock her, since competition between houses was big and continuously supported by teachers. It's a shame, however, that even Ron and Harry laughed at her. In their first year, before they really became friends, Ron said a lot of unkind things that made Hermione cry. She closed herself in the bathroom where the troll attacked her, and then Harry and Ron came to rescue her. I guess in the end that event brought the trio together. It didn't, however, stop Ron from still mocking her. Later on, after they first encountered Fluffy, Hermione said the legendary line that we all know. And what was Ron's reaction? Commenting on Hermione's priorities. And sure, Ron was 11, maybe I'm judging him too harshly, but I want to focus on why Hermione reacted like this. For Ron, getting expelled from school was just getting expelled from school. His parents would probably find him a different one or even convince the staff to let him back in. For Harry, difficult to say, as in this Ron-Hermione conflict, he mostly tried to stay impartial. But he knew his parents were wizards, he knew he was someone very important, so he also had no reason to worry about it too much. He knew he belonged there. But for Hermione, it would be the end of her magical journey. She came from a muggle family, and if she'd got expelled, she would have probably gone back to her muggle world. Her parents didn't have any influence in the magical world, so Hermione was completely on her own. Getting expelled meant no more magic in her life. She wasn't part of this world, she wasn't born into it, she felt no sense of belonging. For her, learning was the only thing that could make her part of this world. If she was the best, no one could question her legitimacy as a witch. This thinking was later backed by a very racist comment made by Hagrid. You see, through the entire series, Rowling is trying to convince us that racism is bad, but very unsuccessfully. Instead of point-blank saying that thinking non-magical people are worse is wrong, she's trying to convince us that the reasons for racism are wrong. There could be a lot said here, but since this video is about Hermione, I'm going to focus on one very telling example from her life. In the Chamber of Secrets, when Draco called Hermione a mudblood, Ron tried to protect her by trying to cast a snail-eating spell at Malfoy. But because his wand was broken, he ended up casting the spell on himself. So the trio went to Hagrid's house to look for help. That's where Harry learned what a mudblood is, and that's where Hagrid explains why thinking that is wrong. He says, "See, the thing is, Harry, there's some wizards, like the Malfoy family, who think they are better than everyone else because they are what people call pure blood. There isn't a wizard alive today that's not half blood or less. More to the point, they've yet to think of a spell that our Hermione can't do." That's a quote from the movie. In the book, the situation looked a little different. First, Ron said, "It's about the most insulting thing he could think of. Mudblood's a really full name for someone who was muggle-born. You know, non-magic parents. There are some wizards like Malfoy's family who think they are better than everyone else because they are what people call pure blood. I mean, the rest of us know it doesn't make any difference at all. Look at Neville Longbottom. He's pure blood and he can hardly stand a cauldron the right way up." And then Hagrid says, "And they haven't invented a spell our Hermione can't do." So basically what both Ron and Hagrid did there was reinforce Hermione's idea that as long as she's a good student and knows the spells, she deserves to call herself a witch. They could have told her literally anything else, that she deserves to be a witch because she was born a witch, for example. Instead, they just pushed her further into her belief that studying is what's going to make her fit in. Hermione's love for learning was based in her fear of being rejected. She did that to avoid racism and so that no one could question the legitimacy of her wand. We obviously know that did literally nothing. In the Deathly Hallows, after years of Hermione proving how smart and skilled she was, the Death Eaters imprisoned her and Bellatrix carved the word mudblood into her arm, because racists don't care about logical arguments. In the Harry Potter universe, the pure blood supporters don't think that muggle-borns are worse because they can't do magic as well, or because they don't know the history, or whatever else. They may sometimes use those arguments to explain their beliefs in a rational way, but those beliefs aren't based in rationality at all. Pure blood supremacists just think that muggle-borns are worse because they have muggle blood. Just like any other racist, they think some people are worse just because they were born worse. There is nothing they can do about it, it's just their innate trait that they have to live with. Racists may try to look for arguments to support their beliefs, but no amount of arguments would change their mind. And that's why I feel so bad for Hermione sometimes. She did everything people told her to do to avoid that treatment, to no avail. To sum up, I think those were the main reasons for Hermione's obsession with learning, trying to fit in and avoid racist treatment. Maybe if the magical community wasn't built like this, Hermione would never have been that crazy about school. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. But for now, thank you for watching, please consider subscribing, and hopefully see you next time.